got the server already set up. We already know the IP address, and so this is going to be the replacement IP for what we currently have for Dorado. Um, the first step is to make sure that everything is set in place in the right direction of, if traffic was sent to this server, that everything will be managed correctly. So with a WordPress site, you do have to change the URL in the database. There are some pretty easy ways to do that, and I will show you how to do it. But the first thing you need to do is make sure that you have all of your domain names that are being pointed to the existing server to the new one. And so in Nexus and a lot of other hosts, they're all going to be kind of different. But in this particular case, because this is the container for the domain, you'll want to go into this. You don't have to add new sites and then add new URLs. All you have to do is just go into this one and then go into domains. And then you can do pointers. Basically, they're aliases, as you can see right here. I added, I think this one was already in there. Maybe I did that or you did. And then this Dorado right here is there. So then the next step is then you've got to log in to the back end of WordPress, which I will do and get everything configured, ready to roll. Some WordPress sites, if you're doing a multi-store or a multi-domain version, you can install some applications that allow you to like find URL information and then have them change. In this particular case, all we're going to need to do here is just change the website, and all we got to do is just make sure that we do the same formatting as we have here. So with that being said, you got to make sure you don't have the backdash like that, and then at that point then we can go ahead and hit save. All this does is just say this is the URL that's going to be accepted, and so now when I hit save, now the site's pretty much going to want to redirect to the other domain. So I'm going to do that. Now I can't find it because it redirected to the Magento site. So the next step then at that point is we got to go and grab the IP address. So grab this IP. We do know that we have access into the DNS. So the current DNS is, or the current record, and I'm not sure if you know a lot about DNS, but an A record is like the main record, and then you can set like C names, which are like call names. They basically, if you put this in there, it's going to know the same, it's going to be the same depending on what's here. So like you can see right here, FTP, CNAME, it's dorodo.net, so it's the same IP address. You can do things like mail.dorado.net. The CNAME of that is going to be popsecureserver.net. So that's an email server. So it looks like these emails are actually residing at GoDaddy, because I think that's their default server. So I'm going to go ahead and manage these records, and I'm going to go ahead and switch this one out. You know what I'm going to do instead? We don't need to worry about old records because we have access to that one, so I don't need to add it. So that's set, and there shouldn't be any other things in this that we would need to change at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to go back out, and I'm going to do dorodo.net. And I think this one should be probably a forward if I recall. Let me look. No. Manage custom records. I'm not sure, with Magento, the alias can get sent to that location, and then the Magento install knows automatically to keep the default address on there. So I think that this will probably work the same way. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to wait for the DNS. I'm going to propagate it and do all that stuff, and that usually is just something that just happens with time. I'm going to kind of watch over it, and then when that's complete, then I'm going to come back out. And if I have any problems with it, then I'm going to document it as well. So I can tell that it's propagating. It has not hit my computer because my computer's DNS is still being utilized by, I think I'm on Comcast. So we're just going to let it go a little bit longer. But on my phone, when I did it, I noticed that the the SSL certs were not installed. So I'm going to come in here, and in the past you'd have to buy an SSL cert and all that jazz, and now you don't have to do that anymore. You can use Let's Encrypt. You can use, a lot of cPanels and other things will allow you to use Let's Encrypt. So in this particular case, what we're going to accomplish here is free SSL cert. So we're just going to go ahead and I don't think this one's available yet. Let me just see why that's the case. So what you'll see here is that I did not switch. So what we probably should have done was had this as a CNAME and then had it point to this record, but we didn't do that. So in this particular case, I have to come all the way down here and I have to change this record to the new DNS, and that's fine. We're gonna have to wait a little bit of time for it to replicate. But once that's done, then they'll know the Let's Encrypt knows that they can actually add that. So let me just see how long. Sometimes it takes like seconds for it to read. It does not, so I'm going to give it some time. So I'm still waiting on this one. It hasn't hit yet. So I just kind of just decided to go over to Dorado on a different domain. Or on a different browser. So I cleared the cache on this one and it's bringing it up. So I'm going to go ahead and redo this. It's still doing the invalid cert, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this and let you know what the problem is. I do think it's just something that's just a timing thing. It's probably just a caching thing because I just ignored it and went through that display, and what you'll see here is the locket is secure. So with that being said, I can log into the back end of the site like you can normally, and you can see that we're sitting pretty on the install. So let's see how it looks on the front end. Kind of looks like you might have grabbed some code, possibly from the existing site, and I'm kind of seeing some of the style sheets and stuff broken now. So you might want to take a look at that, like especially like this. This looks to me like maybe you grabbed. I don't know. We'll see. But you might want to take a look at that. It might be just a caching thing as well. So. But for the most part, it's functioning. It looks like the way you'd want it. The Dorado INT is forwarding correctly based on how that's working. So that's good. Yeah, I just think some of your icons are not working. And that can be a couple different reasons. Let me just check and see what kind of errors you got on the page. Yeah, it does look like. Yeah, so this is what the issue is. So we're seeing this URL is cross, you're using its CORS policy, so it's access control across to origin. So it's blocking it. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that this domain name is no longer valid in the code for the site. So when we log into the back end of probably what I can do is probably write a query, or the other thing that you can do is in the back end of WordPress you can find a module that will search out this URL and make that change. So I'm going to go ahead and find that. Okay. So there's always something out there that will do what you probably need. I looked into it and I probably would have done a SQL query and made changes and just done a like search out any URL, but in this particular case this will work. Um, I'd always do a backup. It's not a bad idea before you do it. So you could do a backup in Nexus, or you could do a backup um, by installing a backup plugin. And I don't think we have any installed yet. Let me just do that really quick. So I installed Updraft Plus. Um, I mean, really, all you're really needing to back up is just your database. So um, include your files in your backup, include your database in your backup. Because you're not going to be, unless you were doing a massive update or something, or you can install a bunch of applications, you really don't need to do this. So the database is the important thing. And if you had a large database, let's say you had 100,000 products in WooCommerce or something, then you could run into problems. So they make this really easy. So I mean, basically, I've got the snapshot now. I can do restore. I can click here to download the database, and it gives you archival purposes as well. And usually, I think this database has got to be under 30 meg, so it's super small. Um, all right, so with that being said, we go into tools and we update the URL now that we've got this. Um, so you've got your existing storefront. So we still have this right here. Go ahead and copy link address. And we are going to bring this all the way to, we don't care about, all we care about is that. The rest of it is useless because we're going to change everything on the outside and it's or outside of those parameters. So we only need to do this. Page contents, so any URLs. I mean, really, ultimately, we really don't want to use that anymore anyway. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and hit update URLs now. And it looks like 408 content items were changed. So theoretically now when we refresh this page that error should go away. So we're going to go ahead and refresh the page. And it did not. There's a possibility that yeah, we gotta probably just clear cache out. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this and bring it into a incognito window. So there's a possibility that we have to go into the theme itself manually. They might have a separate database area. So I'm going to go look through the database and find that URL where it's at. So I did a search for the um, following address, and I found it in 8 different places in the options, and then also in this. So I'm going to go ahead and look it up, and you can see here it's buried in these posts here. So um, I'm going to go through these and manually change them out. What you'll find here is the directory of where it's at. So you don't want to change this. Um, so I'm going to kind of keep going through these and kind of a headache. So I think what I might end up doing is going into the theme and trying to search the stuff out there. What you can see here is this one has the full URL in it. But that tool that we were utilizing does not allow for changing in the options section because of, I'm not sure why. I mean, it could definitely cause some pretty major issues if you were to do something wrong. So that's probably why. But I'm going to go through these records. I'm going to go ahead and make these changes, and then the site will be looking a whole lot better by that time. All right, so I went through the database, found most of the stuff, and then um, read on Porto, or so the Aveda information that you just have to go into the plugin area, or sorry, into the global options and just hit save. And what it does is it reflects the new URL. So what I would tell you is if you see any issues or anything and you can't fix it, let me know and I'll have to look into it a little bit more. But from what I can tell, everything looks to be functioning the way it should be, and we should be good to go.